The hyperinflation crisis of 1923 was a serious economic problem faced by the government in 1923. An economic problem means to do with money, unemployment, or the economy in any way. This was one of two economic crises that the government faced. The other was in 1929. Do not get the two confused. Germany had experienced inflation during World War I. They had borrowed huge sums of money to invest in the war effort. This in itself made things difficult for the government. The war had made Germany bankrupt. So some of the background to the crisis. In 1921, reparations were set at 6.6 million. The Weimar government could not pay. This was made worse by the fact that in the Treaty of Versailles, Germany had lost wealth-earning areas, land that they had lost in the treaty, and so Germany already had a falling income. By 1923, the government could no longer pay reparations to France. The French, also having their own war debts to pay, decided to invade the Ruhr, a vital industrial area for Germany. The German government met this invasion with what we call passive resistance. This meant that the workers, supported by their government, went on strike. The German government had no other choice but to rely on the workers. Their army had been reduced in the Treaty of Versailles, and they were no match for the 750,000 strong French army. The disruption to industry made the government unpopular, increased Germany's debts, unemployment, and the shortage of goods. The German shortage of money means that the government printed more money to pay workers who were resisting the French. The more money that's printed, the less value that this money has. Shops therefore increase their prices to compete with the falling value of money. Look at some examples from 1923 there. The government continued to print more and more money, and inflation turned into hyperinflation, where the price of goods rose but the value of money went down. It was a vicious circle. To be able to pay reparations meant that inflation got worse. By 1923, prices had reached their peak, and a loaf of bread cost 100,000 million marks. Hyperinflation had many complex effects. Everyone suffered from shortages. Foreign suppliers refused to accept German currency, and so imports dried up. This meant shortages of food and goods. People had to carry bundles of money in baskets and wheelbarrows to buy simple goods, and it was the wheelbarrow and the basket that were worth more than the money itself. Everyone was rushing to the shops 2 or 3 times a day so they could buy goods before prices went up further. Some people were affected differently, and it's important to make these differences clear. The middle classes suffered the worst. Their savings became worthless. Salaries that were set at a fixed amount were now worthless. Pensioners also suffered greatly, as their pensions had no value. The wages of the working class did not rise as fast as inflation, and they too suffered. However, those with debts found they could pay them off easily. Eventually things improved. Stresemann, the new German Chancellor, sent the Ruhr workers back to work and introduced a new currency to stabilise the economy. However, many Germans had suffered and they blamed the government. The middle classes, the group of people the government could most rely on for support, had suffered the worst. This was yet another humiliation for the Weimar government. If you look here why the Weimar government was so unpopular, there are economic, political and social factors. This focused on the economic factors today, or at least one of them in detail.